Well, thank you very much, Amelia, and it's certainly a pleasure to be here with all of you again this afternoon after what I think was a very good session this morning where we had the opportunity to speak about this issue with the representatives of the nation states that are here this week discussing these important issues. I think, as I reflected on this morning's session in particular, I I couldn't help but note the comments of Michelle Giles McDonough, who was here this morning and is the director of the Sustainable Development Unit in the Executive Office of the Secretary General. And in her comments, she talked about the agenda needs to get to households so nobody is left behind. And as I reflected on those comments, I couldn't help but think, quite frankly, the journey that I think all of us still have to get to actually get it down to the household level. Because while we have been doing significant work at UCLG through the Global Task Force of Local and Regional Governments for a number of years, and while we've been working with our national local government associations and so on to advance the SDG agenda, to advance the advocacy around it, and to do a lot of the work that's necessary from a capacity building point of view. As I said at our strategic planning session at UCLG back in February, we're still a long way off from the average citizen understanding what the SDGs are and all of the work that needs to be done to achieve them over the next number of years. I know that later on in the discussion this afternoon, we're going to be getting into the whole issue of capacity building, so I'm not going to say a lot about that right now, but I will talk a little bit about the point that Amelia made around the 2030 agenda and the link to sustainable urbanization. And I think it goes without saying that the point that was made this morning, that the 2030 agenda is in fact an urban agenda. And the achievement of the 2030 agenda cannot be detached from ensuring sustainable urbanization. With urban areas housing half of the global population, you will also find an increasing proportion of the most vulnerable living there. Urbanization does not affect cities alone, but all the surrounding territories, and addressing sustainable urbanization will also help ensure sustainable territorial development, addressing the rural-urban continuum. Even in my own country, we know that this is a very sensitive issue. With the Federation of Canadian Municipalities as an example, whenever we start talking about urban issues, we're very much often reminded from our rural counterparts that the issues that we face in, for example, Canada's 22 largest cities are also the cities that, or the impact that our other 4,000 roughly municipalities across the country are facing. And if we're going to deal with our challenges, we need to deal with them together and collaboratively. Current trends will transform the balance between and within regions. The Global South, particularly Asia and Africa, will complete the transition to an urbanized world. The relationship between urban and rural areas is evolving. The borders between the two are becoming increasingly blurred, and they're ever more interdependent. Getting cities right in addressing local governance and capacities, paying special attention to intermediary cities that have an important role to play as service hubs, will offer the opportunity to contribute to rural prosperity and preserving rural livelihoods. The rural and urban agenda is intrinsically linked and are a critical component of the development agenda. Ignoring this will be missing the opportunity to address the kinds of inequalities, the protection of ecosystems, and the creation of jobs that are contemplated through some of these 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Thus, what is clear is that the resources needed for urbanization and all its related social and environmental implications will be hugely significant, though to what extent, I don't believe is fully understood by any of us yet. The current model of development is generating both new opportunities and new social and political threats. Urbanization is positively correlated with growing incomes and human development indicators. However, this model also has dramatic consequences for the environment, including natural resource depletion, the impoverishment of biodiversity, climate change, and the increasing impact of natural disasters on cities and territories. New patterns of production and consumption are essential for sustainable development, and the time available to make these changes and prevent irreparable damage to our planet, as we know, is fast running out. The cost of failing to deal with urban growth now will be vast, and the next 20 years will be critical to urgently bringing about structural changes to the way in which we approach development. And addressing the sustainable urbanization agenda as part and parcel of the 2030 agenda and making local governments up to the challenge is going to be critical as we go forward. So I think we have an opportunity today and in the days ahead and in the months ahead to certainly do a lot of great work, particularly in collaboration between both national and subnational governments in terms of the localization of the SDGs. And hopefully all of us are up to rolling up our sleeves and getting the job done in that time period so that we can see some real positive steps forward. Thank you.